Hi, this is John Maddox again. So what I decided to do today, instead of just getting into exactly what I'm doing, I think I'm going to lay out a couple more workouts for you. First of all, today I want to talk about duplicative exercises because if you're a jerk-free athlete, there are certain exercises you really shouldn't be doing if you're all squatting and deadlifting. All right, if you're doing both of those, there are going to be some things that are going to make you overtrain. And then the other thing is I want to talk about maximum leverage because if for some reason, certain exercises, it could be because you got a shoulder problem, maybe you got knee pain. You might want to try to work around those to maximize your leverages to help you get stronger faster. All right, so I'll give you some scenarios that make sense there. All right, so I'm going to put this out there. If you squat and deadlift, right? So understand, I'm not here talking really to bodybuilders. I'm talking to people who just are your average Joe who wants to get stronger. They like to squat, they like to deadlift. Well, if you're doing both those exercises, like I said, I recommend the 10-day week. I don't recommend a 7-day week, but I can't tell you. I mean, it's like no one knows what a 10-day week is. All right. So, but still, even if you're on a 10-day week, one of the things I learned very early on, guess what? The number one duplicative exercise I see people do? Leg presses. All right. So cut leg presses completely out of your routine if you're squatting and deadlifting. It is overtraining you. It's an overtraining exercise. And it's funny because my chiropractor, Matt Zwang, who I've been working with since 2005, he said he used to go down and train with Louis Simmons, and he said Louis Simmons told him to cut leg presses out as well. So yeah, I found that they just overtrain you, and they don't teach you how to squat, they don't teach you how to deadlift. Like I said, if the only leg exercise you do is leg presses, then fine, keep leg pressing. I don't like them because I have to put so much weight on. Because you got to understand, whatever your full squat is, you're most likely going to do 2 times that, if not more, on the leg press. And it does put a lot of stress, depending on which type of leg press equipment you're using, on your lower back. So I don't like leg presses at all. I haven't done them since before 1990. So understand, I won all these national deadlifting titles, never doing a leg press. All right. So to me, doing a deadlift is a leg press. Doing a squat is a leg press. So why would you want to actually do leg presses on top of that? All right. So, and the other thing it's going to be too is, if you're benching, right? And so your upper body's already warmed up, right? Let's say you went through, and I know I gave a scenario where, I do my bench and then I do a board press and then I go to an incline press, right? As my whole bench routine, right? I work up though to get to my max bench first, and then I do one set maybe or two with the other ones. Well, when I'm done with that, guess what I'm ready to do? I'm ready to do some tricep exercises. Well, my triceps are already warmed up too from doing all that pressing. So I don't need to do 15 different tricep exercises. So I'll go over and I just concentrate right now on the tricep push down, right? I usually take a bar that's a little bent, like this, and I concentrate on that. And sometimes it's usually one set at that point in time. You keep track of what your weights are. So let's say I'm doing it and I get 8, and my goal is to get it to 10, right? Whatever weight I'm using, as soon as I hit my 10 goal, then I'll go up from there. But it doesn't make sense to me to then go and do lying tricep extensions, one arm tricep extensions. You're just going to overtrain. All right. You've already trained your triceps when you did your regular benching, right? When you did your board presses, work your triceps great, by the way. And like I said, I'm just not someone who likes to do boards and chains and bands, right? And because you can actually go into power rack and do partial bench presses in the power rack too. All right. So the other thing, because now that we're mentioning that, I consider bands and chains and work in a power rack the same exercise. So if you're doing, some partials, then you shouldn't also be doing bands and you shouldn't also be doing chains. You should be picking one or the other, whichever one works for you. I mean, everybody likes things that are different. I mean, if you don't have access to a power rack, like now people are using platforms. Like we have platforms. I built some back, I can't remember what year it was, 2009, I believe it was. I actually emailed Andy Bolton and he responded to me because I saw that he was using them and I thought that was a great idea. I just customized mine and made it where, I have one platform and then we have wood platforms that go into our metal so that we can adjust heights for everybody. So it's much easier, you know, where before you'd have to do it in a rack and you'd have to just pull the pins out if you had people at different heights. And it's just a pain. Having the wood platforms makes it much easier. You just throw one on or pull one off to adjust it for, you know, different people's heights and stuff like that. So again, so if you're looking at duplicative exercises, I think the power rack, the bands and the chains are the same thing. So if you're doing one, you probably shouldn't be doing the others. All right, just find whichever one makes sense for you. Or if you're using platforms for partial movements, right? So platforms, right? The power rack. I think a lot of people tend now to not use the power rack as much as they used to. And then you got bands and chains. Pick one of those, right? And to do your partial movement. And then you probably only need to do one set of partials if you're already doing the full movement. All right, you don't need to sit there and do partial after partial after partial. And then, so that's talking about duplicative exercises. Cut out the leg presses. If you're doing partial movements, you don't have to do 5 different partial movements. All right. Same thing with your triceps and your biceps. You don't have to do 5 different sets of triceps and 5 different exercises, I should say. 5 different exercises for your bicep. If you're doing your lat work, like me, for example, if I do my bent rows first, which is what I like to do, so I warm up to get to my max bent row, and then I'll do one set of the pull downs, all right, and I adjust what the weight is. So I do one set normally. Sometimes I'll go over there if I do really heavy bent row, and I'll do the whole stack. That's like 260 pounds. I'll knock that out for an easy set of 8. And I'll throw a 60-pound dumbbell on, and I'll use that to do 3 to 5. I think the most I've ever done with the 60-pound dumbbell is 6. All right, but that's it. Then my lats are done. All right, and then I move to, you know, my bicep exercise, right? And so I like to do concentration curls, right? One set, and then I do one set of hammer curls. So, and then that's it. That's my whole upper. I'm not going to sit there, you know, and do reps and all these different reps and all these different sets. You've already worked everything when you did your lats. And now you're just kind of doing a little bit of concentration on that specific muscle. All right. Remember, the key is not to overtrain. All right. And then now maximum leverage. And I think this is important too, because especially for people who have injuries like me. I had my rotator cuff done. And so I like to bench press on a slight decline. I also have a lot of fusions in my spine. I have flexibility issues. And so by using a decline, it allows me to lock my legs in so I don't slide up the bench because I don't have a flat back. So for me to lay on the bench, I don't get as much contact, right? Total contact on the bench as most people do. So the decline for me allows me to press at my maximum leverage, where if I tried to bench on a flat bench, I literally slide up the bench. And it irritates my hip, which I've had problems with, especially over the last, you know, about 2 years when I had the injury to it. So last thing I want to do is sit there and put pressure on an injury that I'm trying to get over, and then not be at my maximum leverage anyways. So for me, I do a slight decline. Takes the, you know, because on a decline, you don't get as much shoulder rotation. So people need to understand that. All right. And it doesn't mean I can't press at a meet. If your triceps are getting stronger, all your pressing is going to get stronger. All right. And I'll give you an example of my late and great friend, Craig Terry. You know, back in the 90s, he had some issues with his knees and he couldn't do a full squat for some reason. And then, you know, we experimented with different things. We ended up, he started taking chondroitin. And back then it was really just glucosamine and chondroitin, right? And then those other supplements started adding to these ship products over the years. But eventually he got through that. But what he did is he did half squats until he could do the full range squats. All right. So, and think of that. You know, if your strongest pressing movement is overhead, because I know there's a lot of strongman out there. All right. If that's your primary exercise is pressing overhead, and that's where you're great. You notice that these guys who do these massive overhead presses are still massive bench pressers. All right. Once your triceps get strong, all your pressing is going to get strong. So just, you know, think about that, right? Where's your maximum leverage? How do you work around stuff? Because if you're training at your maximum leverage, everything around that exercise is going to get stronger. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to add. So cut out the duplicative exercise. I don't care what they are. When you're a drug-free athlete, you don't need to be doing 5 different exercises for your bicep. You don't need to be doing 5 different exercises for your tricep. And you wonder why your bench isn't going up. Your bench probably isn't going up because you're overtraining. I mean, I do have some issues because I like to do heavy shrugs, right? I like George Lehman's analysis. If you can't can't shrug it. How do you think you can deadlift it? Well, that does tire me out when I go to bench, even though it's 3 days later. All right. So what are you going to do? To me, the squat and the deadlift in the total make more sense than just concentrate on my bench press. So, and I even know the legendary Lamar Gant used to say that too. He would concentrate on his squat and his deadlift because based on the amount of body weight that they put on you, they're going to keep you lighter and give you a bigger total than concentrating on your bench press, right? But they all have to be worked on. But he's still a very good bench presser too. So anyways, the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start covering actually what the 10-day workout looks like. And I did that for the majority of my career. So even though now I've concentrated down to 2 days, I'm really doing that just for my own convenience of work and everything else I have to do, spending time with my family. And so it's a personal choice to train 2 days a week. The 10-day routine is what we did for many, many, many years, and we had a lot of success with it. So I'm going to cover that in the next video. All right, but I just want to just summarize it real quick. Cut out the duplicative exercise. Cut out if you're squatting and deadlifting, do not leg press. Cut those things out. They are going to overtrain you. All right. And you really need to look at going to a 10-day week because I'm telling you, you're going to see your strength really shoot up if you do that. All right. And then try to train at your maximum leverage. All right. Like you said, sometimes people have issues squatting, right? But if you do, bring up in the pins up and you start doing some partial movements, that gives you a lot of confidence to help you eventually get that full squat. I love to do partial squats. So next time, all right, we're going to cover what the 10-day week looks like. I'm going to show you what I used to do when I used to do a 10-day week to kind of help you out. And then maybe what I'll do is then I'll show you how I customize that, later on. So obviously I'm going to keep putting videos out and hopefully you guys like them. But anyways, I appreciate you guys as always coming here. I'll talk to you soon.